250,000 Hondas recalled for defective engines, 2.6 million recalled for defective fuel pumps, and drivetrains that are failing left and right. Honda, you okay, bro? Listen, Honda has always been one of the world's brightest shining stars in the reliability department. And while, yeah, they've had some transmission issues with a few of their cars back in the day, we're looking at you, Odyssey, overall, you simply can't go wrong buying a Honda, right? Take the Civic, which was consistently as reliable as its main competitor, the Corolla, but was almost always more engaging to drive. Or the Acura, same thing when compared to the Camry, a bit better to drive, slightly nicer interior. Or the CR-V, which, well, nothing springs to mind that puts it ahead of the RAV4, but it's certainly just as good. Look, we love Hondas, but recently, well, they've had some problems. In the last few years, Honda has slipped from a consistent top 3 contender in Consumer Reports' reliability study all the way down to 15th place. Today, we're gonna find out why. It's important to remember that Honda's reputation for reliability wasn't built overnight. For decades, cars like the Civic and Accord have been benchmarks in their categories, consistently matching or exceeding the reliability ratings of rivals like the bulletproof Corolla and Camry. I mean, guys, if you wind the clocks back to the Malaise era, it was Honda that finally gave the US and, well, the whole world a genuinely good alternative to the huge sloppy gas guzzlers of the time. The CVCC was inexpensive, well-made, hugely economical, and dead reliable. All the same virtues Honda still has to this day, or at least, according to Consumer Reports, they did until about 2015. So here's what's going on. We'll start with their recent choice in gearbox. See, around 2015, Honda moved virtually all of their smaller cars, crossovers, and SUVs to a continuously variable transmission, or CVT, in favor of the old reliable torque converter automatics that were pretty great for a long time. The problem is, CVTs essentially use a steel belt with some tapered pulleys that change diameter to affect power transmission and speed, almost exactly the same way it works on something like a snowmobile. And while, in theory, CVTs are a logical choice, I mean, they allow for the engine to sort of live in its most efficient operating range for maximum power and economy, there are a few major drawbacks. Personally, I can't stand the way most of them drive, but more importantly, they are nowhere near as reliable as a standard automatic or manual transmission. That steel belt relies on friction alone to grab, which generates a lot of heat, and a lot of heat means a lot more maintenance. The oil gets cooked and dirty, the belt wears out, and almost without fail, at some point, the transmission is going to give up the ghost. I'm not saying regular old automatics don't also need maintenance, because they do, but if you actually maintain one of those, it should last the life of the vehicle, whereas with the CVT, it's not uncommon to see one needing full replacement at 80 or 100,000 miles. Take Nissan, for example, which used a CVT from Jatco. That transmission has been an absolute nightmare for the company. I've replaced my fair share of them in customers' cars myself, they're junk. And yeah, Toyota's using CVTs now too, but typically only when paired with an electric motor. Toyota hybrids use what are called an eCVT, where essentially they've replaced the belt with some planetary gears and an electric motor, and so far, eCVTs are proving extremely reliable. Honda has those too, but again, that style of CVT is only possible when you have a hybrid drivetrain. Those aren't the problem. The problem are the cars with the belt drive continuously variable units. Don't get me wrong, they're better than Nissans for sure, but not bulletproof reliable like you'd expect out of a Honda. Then there are some problems with the engines. The old 2.4-liter naturally aspirated 4-pot will go down in history as one of the most reliable engines of all time. In fact, several of Honda's engines will. I mean, change your oil and replace your timing belt every once in a while, and there's a long list of Honda power plants that will go easily 300,000 or 400,000 miles. But their relatively new 1.5-liter turbo, well, we've got a few issues. Major problem here stems from Honda's recommended service intervals. See, turbocharged engines don't have a very easy life. All that boost and extra fuel required to make the 200 horsepower out of just 1.5 liters ends up over time wearing the engine prematurely. The main problems here are fuel dilution, carbon buildup, and head gaskets, with fuel dilution being the big one. What's happening is because of high cylinder pressure, some of the fuel getting fed into the combustion chamber makes it past the piston rings and into your crankcase. And over time, with enough fuel in there, it turns your oil into basically paint thinner. That causes a lot of premature wear on everything from your cam and crank bearings to your cylinder walls. Engines don't like lack of lubrication. I mean, who does, am I right? Honda apparently didn't catch this until several years after these cars had been out running around, sticking to their regular required intervals. And the results have been a little ugly. We're talking premature engine deterioration, and in some cases, straight up engine failure. Yeah, not great. The simplest fix here is to change your oil more often. Remember, oil is cheap, engines are not. If you own a car with one of these engines or plan on buying one, do yourself a favor and change the oil every 5,000 miles or so with a quality oil and filter, and chances are you're gonna be just fine. But it's not just the Turbo 4 that's had a bit of a problem lately. There's also an issue with their workhorse engine, the 3.5 liter V6. They've put this engine in a ton of cars and it's been very reliable, but now Honda has issued a recall for a large number of them. 250,000 vehicles have been recalled over a potential manufacturing issue with the crankshaft. The first market complaint over the issue was filed with Honda in February of 2020, but by November 2023, over 1,400 warranty claims had been submitted for engine failure. Now, recalls happen. Sometimes the OEMs mess up, no one's perfect, and Honda is taking action to make it right here. But unfortunately, this isn't where the recalls stop. There are also a whole pile of cars under recall right now over defective fuel pumps, which Honda says can fail without warning, causing your car not to start or stall while driving. 2.6 million cars are affected. And like I said, recalls happen, but lately it seems like Honda has had way more than usual. I mean, you expect recalls when you buy certain brands, but not from Honda. There are steering recalls, and engine recalls, and seatbelt recalls, and seat frame recalls, and brake master cylinder recalls. I mean, guys, it's a lot. And that brings us to the final point here, which is Honda's recent overall quality. Now, for those of you who don't know, I own my own repair shop, and I've worked on more Hondas than I could ever remember. The thing is, back in the day, it used to be almost all just maintenance. You'd do fluids, filters, brakes, the occasional timing belt, rarely a thermostat or idle air control valve, all really simple stuff. But lately, several key areas of these cars just seem to be wearing out sort of prematurely. Suspension parts, bushings, engine mounts, I've seen timing cover leaks. The brakes don't seem to hold up on most models as well as they used to. There's just kind of this tinniness to them that while you don't expect the doors to close like a Rolls-Royce or have the same interior materials as a Mercedes, there does seem to be a lack of attention to detail with fit and finish that just wasn't there a few years back. With all that said, the truth is, Honda still makes excellent cars. And if you're thinking about buying one, or you already own one that falls into this 2015 to 2022 or so date range, none of this means you should steer clear from making a purchase or haul off and go trade the thing in for a huge loss because you're worried about it breaking down. None of that. All it really means is that at this moment, you need to be a little more careful about what model and year range Honda you buy, and make sure to be a little more vigilant with maintenance than you ever had to be with one of their products ever before. And what's more is, it's only a matter of time before Honda turns this all around. I mean, reputation is one of the most important things a company has, and there's no way Honda isn't working hard right now to get their reliability rankings back on top. To be clear, I personally have a lot of faith in Honda. I've had a lot of their products, from cars to dirt bikes to street bikes and even a lawnmower, and I've personally never had a bad experience. And some of their cars they have on offer right now are downright excellent. I mean, they are selling your personal data, which isn't great, but they're good cars. So I guess to recap, the crazy part about all this is there was a time where it didn't matter what model you bought from Honda. You knew it was going to be stupid reliable. Where now, just like a lot of other automakers, you just need to make sure you're doing your research before signing up for a new car. But what do you guys think about Honda's reliability? What are your favorite Honda reliability or breakdown stories? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and consider subscribing to Ideal. If you liked this video, well, give it a like, it really helps us out. Go check out one of these other Ideal vids right here. My name's Trav, and I'll see you all next week.